Hi, my name is Brad Gurry and I'm the CEO of Social Suite. Social Suite's an environmental, social and corporate governance reporting platform, ESG. We're proud to be supporters of the RIU conference, and I'd firstly like to start by congratulating Social Suite customers that are here presenting throughout the duration of the conference. Black Canyon, Coda Minerals, Gallon Lithium, Galileo Mining, Helix Resources, International Graphite and Nordic Nickel. These companies, along with 80 ASX micro to small caps, understand the importance of ESG to create long-term organisational value. The Social Suite platform is specifically designed for micro to small caps in supporting them, one, to attract capital from investors that value ESG disclosures. Two, creating revenue through responding to supply chain requests and the negotiation of offtake agreements. Three, mitigating organisational risks while building brand value. The Social Suite platform is easy and affordable for the smallest of organisations to get started with ESG. This is complemented by our industry expert ESG coaches who will help you with your ESG journey. We wish all companies and investors a successful RIU conference, and we're here to help with your ESG needs.
All right, team, let's get this show on the road. Final session. Who got me the food? Was that you? Thank you very, very much. I'm very, very lucky. We've got a really nice bunch. One of the fellows has just observed that I find it actually hard to leave the room because I'm talking to people and getting information for us to make things run smooth. Actually, Jackson, has he left the room yet? Jackson just came and told me off because we weren't starting on time. Hello to those of you playing along at home. We are 10 minutes behind, but thank you very much for that food. I really appreciate that. Right, so we have got 10 presentations, 10 minutes each. So rules of engagement for those of you who are in the room to do the presenting. I'll ring the bell at 8 minutes. I'll stand up at 9 minutes and I'll push you off at 10 minutes. Okay, so that's the deal. And I'll keep my intros nice and short. We've got lots of really interesting ones to get through. And right at the end, we've got Jarra with us. Now, Jarra is from S&P, and he's going. One of the things that we all realise in this room, very obviously, is that to go green, we're actually going to need a lot more minerals. We're going to need to dig a lot more minerals out to go green, which is great news for us as investors. But Jarra's going to address that, and he's going to provide an in-depth snapshot of the mining and exploration sector facing forward for us. So that's a really good one to stick around, and we deliberately put him at the end, just between you and those drinks, those conference drinks. Right, George Bauk, come and join us here, please, sir. We're going to talk about, I like that, someone's excited, PVW Resources. PVW Resources is led by a specialist team, and this guy, with a proven track record in rare earth discovery and development. They're working to unlock significant value through exploration success within its portfolio. George actually has got over 15 years experience within the rare. Is it you that's got 15 years experience within the rare? You'd have more than that, wouldn't you?
I look at it.
Sorry. Would you please welcome George Bauk to talk to us about PVW, everyone?
Great. Thank you very much. And I'd like to thank Stewie and Jackson and the team of Vertical Events for putting the show on. I think it's been an outstanding success to date. A lot of great traffic coming through, interest in the projects and companies. So it's been wonderful. Right place, right team, right time. I've been presenting rare earths with another hat previously, and a lot of people used to leave because no one had interest in rare earths. But thank God it's now a big part of the agenda, and I'll tell you a couple of reasons why it might be. This week, we've expanded our portfolio to include the Gascoyne. I'll take you briefly through that, and gearing up for a new phase of exploration at our Tanami project. We have our standard disclaimer that we must present. So PVW is all about searching for the next big discovery. At the moment, we're very focused in Western Australia, and you can see there where the projects are located, with the main one being the Tanami, and we've recently acquired the Gascoyne project. The Tanami has had a lot of outstanding outcrops on surface, and we've drilled it this year. I'll take you through those results. A lot of widespread rare earth mineralisation, coupled with some outstanding gold results. And I'll put it up now where some people think about, well, are you rare earth, are you gold? Well, when it comes to the prospect and the Tanami, they happen to coexist. And it's fair to say, if you want the perfect marriage to have a rare earth project with gold byproduct credits, that would be the best thing possible. To just have a simple commodity that you could produce and sell to offset your costs would just be fantastic. So keep that in mind. We've gone into the Gascoyne looking for the light rare earth suite, and there's been a lot of successful stories in that area. We're well funded with $5.3 million, and we've also got gold projects around Kalgoorlie and Leonora. Bit of corporate structure, just short of 100 million shares on issue, market cap of just short of 14 million, EV of about $8.5 million. You can see the top handful of shareholders there: Jason Peterson, Lynn Partners, Jeff Easton's been there since the outset. This company's been going as a private entity and now a listed company for some 5 years, and the board and management hold over 5%. In terms of board and management, I'll highlight a couple of people. As I said, rare earths have been quite exciting in the last couple of years. I first came across rare earths in 2005, so coming up 18 years of experience there, and 10 of those at Northern Minerals, which has had a great success story in recent times. Colin McCavanagh actually founded Northern Minerals, so he has a lot more experience in rare earths. He looks at it as well. And then we have Robin Wilson, who's our consulting geologist working with Carl Webber and the team. Robin was the driver and the finder of Browns Range Northern Minerals project, which if you converted that to gold, it would probably be up for some awards for great discovery, but unfortunately people don't know how to value rare earths. So when we look at the Tanami rare earth and gold project, you can see there we're located right on the WA Northern Territory border. All of our projects are located on the Western Australian side. They're outlined in the red there. It's a well-known gold province with rare earths to the north, about 60 kilometres away. We've got the outstanding Tanami Road, which is a good dirt road at the moment, but the great thing is that the state, federal and territory governments are contributing about $700 million to seal that road. And I think with all the rains that we've experienced up in the northern part of Western Australia in the last 4 or 5 months, I think that'll be accelerated to make sure that there's alternative access to those country towns in the near future. Everyone's chasing the next Cali, so that's been a reason why a lot of people have been exploring for gold in the area, and now it's become a really strong place to look for rare earths. So there's 3 key ingredients in looking for exploration for rare earths. We're looking for an unconformity style heavy rare earth system. We've got the outcrops, we've got an unconformity, the right host rocks. We're now looking for structure, the plumbing. And so that's the real key for us, is to find the right trap to find an economic ore body up in the Tanami. So the exploration campaign in 2022, we drilled approximately 27,000 metres of RC and air core. And the RC was focused around what we call Watts Rise and Castella. And then we went out with our air core looking for new opportunities undercover. It's fair to say that we didn't have big economic quantities, intersections in our first drill campaign, but we definitely had the grade. So just to put people in perspective of what grade looks like in these heavy rare earth projects, the Wolverine deposit, which is the best in the world at Northern Minerals, that sits at approximately 1% or 10,000 ppm. That was upgraded recently from just over 8,000 parts per million. The real sweet spot in these heavy rare earth projects is dysprosium and terbium, DYTB, and they are real critical elements in the permanent magnets, which allow the magnet to retain its charge under high temperature. For many years, people said that they were going to engineer out DYTB. It's becoming even more critical as years go on, and you've seen other companies talk and look for it, if you like. So there's some great intersections up here which show that there is mineralisation in the system. 8,000 ppm. Didn't have the width that we need and want. But then, as I said before, it's pretty spectacular to have intersections including 13 metres at 3.7 grams per tonne of gold. If we could find a gold ore body sitting next to this rare earth deposit, it would be the marriage made in heaven. So, there's some fantastic gold results there, and we're still understanding what that mineralogy is like. This was an outstanding result from our from our air core drilling, about a good kilometre away from the Watts Rise, a metre at 7,000 in air core at bottom of hole, including 93% heavy. So that's a really high percentage of heavy rare earths. We also had some other interesting areas here of 10 metres at 1,800 in air core, 5 metres at 3,000, which is located probably about 5 kilometres south of the Castella prospect that we were drilling initially. That's the same results in a little bit more detail for the air core. So when we interpret this, or if I went back, there was a couple of areas we decided we really needed to focus after the drilling. We've got to understand the structures and the plumbing a lot better. So there was a structural geologist that went out there and really mapped the area to see if we could understand that aspect better. They came up with this 1 kilometre of breccia outcrop. We believe it goes undercover. So that's a critical area. If you take that slice through there, this is the cross-section, drill results, lithology, the unconformity, and this is the structure that we're really looking to see, that this is what we expect to be the target for a rare earth deposit, if you like. So that's where we've got our next program designed to really target that. It looks like one hit, but that's a cross-section that hopefully shows what that whole 1+ kilometre looks like. So it's a seriously exciting target. That's the gold. I don't know, for all the managing directors out there, I don't know why geologists leave you with the best intersection at the end of a season, but 13 metres at 3.7 grams. Thanks, Carl. Now we've got to wait for the wet season. Just another one I'm rushing through. Gascoigne. One of the problems in the Tanami is you can only work for about 7 months of the year. So one of the limitations is how much time you can get on the ground in your news flow and so forth. So we're looking for other opportunities and other projects, and the Gascoigne looks like a fantastic area to be exploring for. I think the reference sites are unquestionably Hastings and Dreadnought, with their fantastic results in recent times. Kingfisher's been putting out some great things, looking for carbonatites, light rare earths. So that's something that we're chasing, and those 5 tenements there we announced on Tuesday. Fault structures running through them. Come to the booth to talk about that more. In terms of rare earths, everyone's an expert in them, so I don't need to talk about them anymore. This has been the biggest change in rare earths, in my opinion. We were always looking for the Elon Musk of rare earths. He really promoted the lithium space. And now when you look at it on an Australian context setting, Andrew Forrest and FMG are saying rare earths #1. You're looking at Gina Reinhardt investing. She invested in our capital raise in 2022. You've got Chris Ellison involved in an asset that's on the ASX. So you've got all these people coupled with the government really driving this, and it's a geopolitical, it's an area that we really need a lot more effort to go on. And again, we have got people that have found rare earths. We've gone through studies, we've built plants, and we've actually sold product on the world's stage. So we've got fantastic pedigree and knowledge. We understand mineralogy, know what we need to do. It's a complement between the NdPr in the Gascoigne and the DYTB in the Tanami. So they're great complementary assets in regional settings, and great team. They've done a fantastic job last year. Christy, I'll give you 2 seconds. Thank you very much.
Well done, Jeffrey. Good start to our power hour. Paul Stevens, come and make your way up here, please, sir. Oar Resources is an Australian-based explorer building a portfolio of assets focused on battery and critical minerals. This is their CEO, Paul Stevens, who's going to provide an update on the company's recently acquired Denchi Genchi Lithium Project and their other upcoming activities. Please make him welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, so I joined Oar Resources towards the end of last year as part of a restructuring of an ASX listed company. The company's got assets all over the globe. It's been listed for about 20 years, and we'll run you quickly through what we plan to do with it. So a big part of the, and we'll get to it, the board of Oar Resources has evolved to basically represent another listed company, Latin Resources, which many of you might know. So Latin Resources has recently, through the 2022 year, experienced a major discovery in lithium in Brazil. They've built a really established and credentialed team. And the board looked at Oar and said, well, why don't we try and replicate that success? So we can see that battery metals and critical metals are the place to be. My role in the company is to come in and look at the existing projects around the globe and see if they match with the strategy of battery and critical metals. If they don't match with that strategy, we'll look to divest them, create shareholder value. And we've already done a little bit of that last year when we sold a iron ore project in South Australia. So we're in the game of reshaping this company. You can see we've got a market capitalisation of about $10 million, and our clear view is that the sum of the parts of the assets in the company here, represent a value far greater than that. Chris Gale, Anthony Greenaway, David Walensky are all on the board of Latin Resources, and this company is benefiting from the experience that they're having with their success in Brazil. The Denchi project has been our first purchase, November of last year, and you can see there that we've accumulated bit over 1,000 square kilometres of really good tenure in the Wiluna district, just south of the town of Wiluna. Outcropping pegmatites everywhere. As my exploration manager keeps telling me, just because you've got a lot of pegmatites doesn't mean that they're fertile. So we've got teams in the bush at the moment sampling. We've got almost too many targets to count in this area. We've been out there 3 times since it was acquired in November, and I think we've probably covered about 2.5% of the total area. So a bit about why we like this project. There was some sampling done on it back in 2019, and really other than that, there's been very, very little activity in the area. It was a relationship between the rubidium and the lithium where we had a spike from some historical samples. In November, we went out and we managed to replicate those. So this is work that we've done. It's verified that the historical rock chips and the historical samples can be replicated. That was only on a very, very small portion of the tenement. So the game now is to get out there and find out which of these pegmatites are actually fertile for LCTs. So a bit of a background. I suppose everybody's got a view on the lithium price, and you hear a wide variety of views. We're quite convinced that the price of lithium is, if it's going to come off, it might take a pause, but it's certainly the long term, and I'm talking about the 5-10 year future for the price of lithium is very, very strong. We see a massive deficit in the market out there. Through our Brazilian contacts, we've got a lot of exposure to worldwide views on this, and I think we're very firm in our view that if the price of lithium comes off a little bit, it'll only be for a pause, and then it'll get back going with the huge deficit that we see coming in the next 5 to 10 years. So our second project, which is compatible with our battery and strategic metals strategy, is a graphite project in South Australia. Now, this is something that's really gained a lot of attention just in the last probably in the last 6 months, where the Eyre Peninsula in South Australia is a pretty good place to have a graphite project. There's currently 5 ASX listed companies operating a variety of different scale graphite projects in the Eyre Peninsula. You can see that we've got a very large tenement area there, and we've got a project that this company was actually floated on quite some time ago. And it's quite interesting to look at the changes that have happened in the graphite markets just in the last 2 or 3 years alone. So back when this project was originally developed and originally brought to market, the whole focus of the graphite market was the basket of products that you could create, and everybody wanted jumbo size flake graphite. And really on the spectrum, this project is very much suited more to a finer product of fine flake graphite. So the people that were looking to develop have always tried to make the economics work on maximising the size of the flake. Now, and for that reason, it was probably overlooked, and it was drilled and it was evaluated in a certain way. And what's happened with the pricing of graphite, and what is forecast to continue to happen with the pricing of graphite, is that the spherical graphite that's used in the production of batteries doesn't require jumbo flake graphite. It can work very, very well, and in fact prefers to work on fine flake graphite. And what that does is it gives us an opportunity to look at this graphite project and say, hang on, the whole criteria for how it was being developed and how it was being explored and how it was being pushed together really overlooked the fine flake. So we've done a little bit of test work. We've determined that it has got a very large percentage of fine flake in the resource. We now need to go back and reshape this project based upon a view that we're not going to be selling this graphite to the traditional markets. We're not going to be selling it as a fire suppressant or as a or any of the normal uses of graphite. We're really going to be focusing on creating battery grade spherical graphite. And I think one of the stats there is the predictions on the pricing of specifically fine graphite are very, very strong. If we look at the World Bank forecasts for all the commodities, you can see that the percentage growth for graphite is number one and number two in the demand for tonnage over the next 50 years. So we go back to that slide on the South Australian Eyre Peninsula. I think there's going to be a real graphite industry continue to grow there. And that's one of the projects whereby, you know, the cheapest by market cap other ASX listed company with graphite is about $30–40 million. We've got a $10 million market cap, and it's only one of the many projects that we have inside the company. So, as I said, the company's been around for a long time. It's had time in Peru. It's had time in North America. We think the battery angle and the critical metals, we think that the South Australian Graphite Project and West Australian Lithium work well together. We can certainly achieve a lot of value with a very small spend on the graphite. This is a project in Peru that we've inherited, and I've got to say most West Australians would look at this and be pretty dismissive of it, and I was as well when we first pulled it apart. And I've got to say it's been a real surprise to understand how these type of things work in Peru, where they're effectively toll treating what we would know as prospectors ore, but it's very, very high grade ore. And when I first joined the company, I got a phone call from a very respected metallurgist that had worked in this industry, and he said, hang on, you've got to have a proper look at this. These things make a lot of money. I did some research. There's a TSX listed company called Dynacor, capped at about $125 million. It's only down the road from this operation that we have. And last year, and very consistently, they've had a revenue stream of about $195 million from doing exactly this. Now, I don't think this company should be in an ASX listed junior. So this is one of the projects where we believe we can generate a lot of value for shareholders by getting it out and getting it into the correct hands. So finally, and I'll wind up, we have a gold project in Nevada. It's in a pretty fantastic part of Nevada. It's very typical of how they go exploring in Nevada, where it's a place that's literally littered with old shafts and workings, and the exploration technique is to drill underneath those. We've done a reasonable amount of work on this. We've got it looking pretty good. And again, I don't believe this project fits with our new strategy of battery metals. So this is something we'll look to divest into the North American market. Again, great board put together. Chris, David and Tony having great success in Brazil, looking to replicate that in Australia. And I think we're in a pretty good place to deliver results for shareholders.
Thank you very much. Well done. Oar Resources, Paul Stephen, coming up behind me now, Altech Chemicals. This is Managing Director Iggy Tad. He's going to present their game-changing technology. And the question is could it be a game-changing technology for your portfolio? Make him welcome, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to talk about the grid battery of the future. So the lithium-ion battery, as you know, is a fantastic battery, but it has some challenges. And the first challenge is obviously fire and explosion. This is called thermal runaway. And in a lithium-ion battery, it's virtually impossible to put out the fire, because if you douse the fire, a normal fire would just go out because you take oxygen away. What a lot of people don't realize is that you actually generate oxygen at the cathode end of the battery, so virtually it's impossible to put out. The other thing is that lithium-ion batteries have very limited temperature ranges. So they only operate between 15 to 35 degrees. So in the very cold, the battery actually slows down. That's one of the other challenges. And the third challenge is that the life of the battery is generally about 8 to 10 years. So, and then the final challenge is the critical metals concern. So you've seen the price of lithium go up 5-fold in the last 18 months. This is a concern for the industry. The other concern is the cobalt supply. Ethical concerns, because 70% of cobalt comes from the DRC, and we know about child labor and labor issues in the DRC. So this is a concern for the battery industry. The other concern is that 90% of graphite comes from one country, China. So can you imagine all the supply of lithium batteries coming from one country, which is a geopolitical risk? Finally, the copper crunch. There's research that shows there's not enough copper mines being developed to service just the EV forecast. And then also, finally, manganese. So my question to you, is there a battery that can actually, is fireproof, can operate in a large temperature range, has more than 15 years life, no lithium, no cobalt, no copper, no graphite, no manganese? So this is our Serenergy battery. Essentially, it's a salt and nickel powder battery developed by the Fraunhofer Institute of Germany, the Battery Institute, and we have a joint venture where we own 15% of the 75% of the project to commercialize this technology. So essentially, you can see there, the main ingredient is actually salt. So what does this battery look like? One of the benefits of the battery is that, as I said, it's totally fireproof. The life is beyond 15 years. It operates down to very cold temperatures, because in the battery it operates at 270 degrees. It's fully insulated, and it's a bit like a mammal. It can operate in very cold climates as well as hot environments. The cycle life is beyond 15 years. And the best thing about it is it uses sodium ions. Sodium ions is very reactive. It's just under lithium in the periodic table. And it's totally cobalt-free, as well as the copper and graphite-free. So how does the battery work? So let me show you. This is solid-state technology. So we have a ceramic tube. And essentially, all lithium batteries are trying to get a solid state where there's no liquid electrolyte. So all you're doing is you're adding salt to it, add some nickel metal powder. You insert a positive electrode through there, and then you put it into a cylinder which acts as the negative terminal. So essentially that's what the battery looks like. And that's the finished part of the battery. 240 watts, 240 of those forms a 60 kilowatt battery. So some of the graphics, there you go, that's the ceramic. You've got a positive electrode in the middle. We fill it up with salt crystals and nickel metal powder, and then we flood it with a alumina chloride solution, and that sits in a casing, and that essentially is the battery. So from a chemistry point of view, how does it work? Well, essentially, when you charge the battery, the sodium ions migrate through the ceramic piece, which is the electrolyte, and it forms molten sodium on the other side. And when you discharge the battery, the sodium goes back, grabs the chloride, and becomes salt again. So that's the process. Very neat technology. Essentially, we didn't develop it. It was developed by the German Institute. They were looking for a partner to commercialize it, a partner that had land in Germany, and we fitted that criteria. We got a battery background and we got an alumina background. The ceramic part is the alumina battery. So the unique part of this battery is a self-forming anode. It forms the anode when you charge it and it discharges it. Very neat technology. Well, how does it compare to other batteries? It's very similar to the lithium iron phosphate battery. Very dense, produces a lot of power like the lithium iron phosphate. Very safe, very low maintenance. It hasn't got any moving parts. Unlike lithium ion batteries, you've got fans, and this is actually fits in right into the grid storage market. So the market we're targeting is the grid storage market. This is the market you want to look at. Everybody's focusing on EVs. This is like the lithium industry 12 years ago. Everybody is looking at how do you take the sun's energy and shift it to the nighttime. I'm sure a lot of people have solar panels today in their house. You're generating electricity for 0 cents into the grid, and you're buying it back at night at 50 cents on a kilowatt hour. Okay, so how can we shift that to the nighttime? This is some visuals of the pilot plant that was built. So Fraunhofer spent 35 million euros in the development of 8 years. And this is a shot of some of the operating pilot plants. So these batteries have been produced. You can see the yellow version is a 5 kilowatt version undergoing tests. So it's not a research and development idea. It's already been produced. It operates well. We need to take it to commercialization. So our project is a 100 megawatt plant in Saxony, Germany. As you can see, some of the ceramics been made. We are completing a DFS to build this 100 megawatt plant in Germany, and then we look at gigawatts beyond that. Where are we in Germany? We're on the border between Poland and Germany, in the east part of Germany, in Saxony. We already have the land there, and we're developing this project there. So very exciting technology, and they quote that it'll be 40% cheaper than a lithium-ion battery. Well, it makes sense. You don't have any lithium in the battery, you don't have any cobalt, you don't have any copper, you don't have any graphite, and you don't have any manganese. It's just salt and nickel metal powder. So this is the first product we launched. It's a 60 kilowatt pack running at 100 amps and 600 volts. We got so much interest saying, can we have it in the house? Essentially, the cylinders are sitting in a rack. They pull out. There's 240 of these cylinders providing 60 kilowatt power. So the market really is in the industry. So that's our vision. This is the new technology in grid storage. Thank you.
Thanks, Iggy. Lots to think about there, isn't it? Right, Platina Resources up next at RIU. Well, it's a gold-focused explorer targeting deposits here in WA. They actually hold high-grade platinum scandium projects over in New South Wales, and they also offer further upside through investments in several precious base and also specialty metal projects. This is MD Corey Nolan. Would you please make him welcome?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's exciting to be back here after missing last year because the border was closed, and we made substantial progress last year, cementing down a portfolio of gold projects here in Western Australia, and I'll give you a little bit of an update on how we're progressing. So Platina is a West Australian focused gold explorer. We've got 6 granted tenements on our. We've got 6 projects. One project's ungranted, and we also own a world-class high-grade scandium nickel cobalt project in New South Wales, which has a completed definitive feasibility study. So in my presentation today, I'm just going to give you a little bit of a snapshot of the executive team driving the company, take you through our key assets that we're working on, and our funding strategy. I've got about 27 years experience in the resources industry. The first half of my career was in corporate finance. I floated my first company, Elementos, in 2009. I'm still involved in that company. In the last few years, we've done a major drill out there and taken that project through to close to completion of a definitive feasibility study. Prior to joining Platina, I was the CEO of CZN Mining. I identified a lithium pegmatite project in Quebec, raised about $60 million and assembled a geological team. We drilled about 14,000 metres into that deposit, completed 2 pre-feasibility studies and a DFS. I left Platina, had a market cap of about $180 million, and it's gone on to be a $2 billion company with the assembling of several other lithium deposits in that region. Rowan is my exploration manager. He joined us early last year. He's got about 15 years experience in Western Australia, and prior to joining Platina, he spent about 4.5 years with De Grey Mining. He was part of the original discovery team on the Hemi Gold project, which is now a 10 million ounce ore body. So between the two of us, our objective is to try and replicate that success that we've had in other places and do that on the Platina gold portfolio. So we've got we've got a portfolio of projects, but we're going to be primarily focusing on 3 this year. We're currently working through cultural heritage clearances and approvals on our Brimstone, Xanadu and Beatty projects. And our objective is to try and get at least 3 drill programs completed in the next 3 quarters. So our first drill program will likely be at our Brimstone project. It's a 70 square kilometre package of tenements. It's about 30 minutes drive from Kalgoorlie, so we've got great access there. And it sits in close proximity to the Penny's Fine Gold project, which has historically had some mining, about 18,000 ounces at a very nice grade of 4.5 grams. And they're about to start mining there again fairly soon. Looking to extract around 42,000 ounces at over 5 grams. There's about $5 million worth of historical expenditure gone into the Brimstone tenement package. Most of that's been in drilling, all shallow drilling. About 93% of the holes are less than 100 metres depth, and a large majority of those are below 50 metres depth. So we see a great opportunity to come back through here and not only do a lot of shallow drilling, but also some deeper drilling. There's been a lot of drilling around the Garibaldi prospect, and we see that as a good opportunity to start drilling and potentially build up a resource pretty quickly. So we're just in the process of trying to bed down our cultural heritage clearances here. If all things go to plan, we'd like to be drilling there in March. This is just an oblique section through the Garibaldi deposit, which has got quite a lot of drilling in it, and just gives you a little bit of a flavour of some of the attractive intersections in there. 55 metres at 2 grams, 34 metres at 2.8. So it's a nice area for identifying nice high-grade gold deposits that could be monetised quite easily in the Kalgoorlie area. Our second project that's going to be a key focus is Xanadu. It's located 30 kilometres south of Paraburdoo. It's in the Ashburton Basin. It sits on the Nargilgadi Fault Zone. It's got the high-grade Paulson's deposit in the northwest, Karlawinda in the southeast, and there's about a 1.7 million endowment at the Mount Olympus project, which just sits 7 kilometres to the east of our package. We've got 550 square kilometres here. So far, we've been predominantly focused on the northwestern end, and where there's been a lot of historical drilling. And in the next couple of months, we're going to start tackling that bigger package that we've got to the east. There's been quite a lot of historical drilling in the area. Most of the focus was on the development of a shallow oxide heap leach project. And you can see that there's a combination of high-grade intersections over short distances, and then there's a lot of mineralisation over broader distances, lower grade, but it's within a very extensive 10-kilometre hydrothermal alteration zone. So it's a really exciting package, and we look to we'll be looking to start drilling here, hopefully in about the third quarter, looking to target oxide resources and also hopefully the deeper source of this gold mineralization in this extensive system. And our third project, only granted in December last year, is Beatty. It's about 50 kilometres south of Norseman. Norseman has about a 5 million ounce endowment. We've got the Norseman Gold Project, which now has an additional resource of 5 million ounces, including the Scotia Mining Centre, which has about 1 million ounces in it. It's only 10 kilometres to the north of our property package there. And a rumour of been having some great success drilling out a structure to the south of us, getting quite very, very high grade gold intersections over a short distance. We believe that those structures run through that property north-south, and we're currently in the process of doing a major soil program there to help to define some drill targets, and so that we can meet a drilling requirement hopefully in that sort of third or fourth quarter this year. Just in concluding the presentation, we've got a market capitalisation of about 11.8 million. We've got $1.9 million in the bank. We actually have a portfolio valued at an investment portfolio valued at about $3 million. We've been selling some of those shares in that portfolio over the last couple of months to keep our cash position strong, and we'll be using those funds to implement our gold strategy and hopefully keep our share dilution to a minimum. So our key value drivers for our company is going to be the exploration upside from our gold portfolio, targeting drilling 3 projects there this year. We'll be funding our exploration, keeping our capital structure tight by selling off our investments, and we're also working on a strategy to unlock the significant investment that we have in our scandium project in New South Wales. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rory. Right, this is getting very short and very sweet and slightly impersonal, but the great news is all of these people are available to talk to at the booth or tonight at drinks. That was the halfway mark. Corey, Brett, you're up. Corazon is next. It's a nickel explorer and developer strongly positioned to take advantage of the rechargeable battery and the renewable energy industries. Their team is focused on advancing its wholly owned, highly prospective flagship asset in Canada. Here in Australia, you've got 3 projects. Let's outline them. We've got our MD here, Brett Smith, to tell us why Corazon's project should be exciting us as investors. Please make him welcome.
Thanks, Chrissy, for the introduction, and welcome everyone to the Corazon Mining Talk. Right, Corazon, exploration company, projects in Canada and Australia, very much a battery metals focus, nickel, copper, cobalt, and also recently we've added West Australian lithium hard rock to that list. Our flagship project, Lynn Lake in Canada, large JORC compliant resources. And Corazon, while we've really got aspirations to be a mid-tier nickel producer, we are labelled as an explorer, and we get very little value for those resources in our market cap. Market cap of about $14 million. Cash just over 5 gives the best possible valuation, enterprise value for Lynn Lake of about $8 million, which is not significant compared to the size of the asset. But we're okay with that. We've got some really good exploration projects and we're happy to explore, that's for sure. That's our DNA. So I'll take you through the exploration projects to start with and come back and at the end and talk about the mining centre. Right, in Australia, we have Miriam in Western Australia and Mount Gilmore in New South Wales. Mount Gilmore, it's a large project. It's about a 20k strike length of basement rocks that are anomalous in copper, cobalt, silver, gold, to name a few metals. This one's, it's stumped us a bit in what it is, and we've always thought that it was a porphyry copper system, but we see a lot of different kind of signals there from the geology. And we've engaged the University of Tasmania codes to use some of their proprietary knowledge in identifying A, what it is, and B, where we should be targeting, because the central core of that anomaly, you can see here, is about 8 kilometres by 2 kilometres. We've drilled on the edge of it a couple of holes, but it just hasn't been drilled. It's a very difficult target to pull apart and determine where to drill. They've done first phase of that work last year. We announced that the codes experts said that what we're seeing on the surface here is sitting on top of a large to joint porphyry copper deposit or deposits, and questioning them about this. No, it's not a porphyry system that's not mineralised. They see these characteristics only associated with mineralised systems. This next phase of work they're doing at the moment should allow us to vector in on the heat source for these for this geochemical mineralisation, and from that we'll be able to define our drilling, and we'll hope to be drilling at this project the first half of this year. Miriam in Western Australia, we picked up this project. The leases have just been granted. We picked up this project for an old nickel sulfide deposit discovered in 1969. It's got high tenor nickel in network style and disseminated sulfide. So we got pretty interested in that alone. We've just completed some EM on that project. Those results aren't back, but very shortly we hope to be able to define targets for drilling that project. Long history of being held by gold projects, gold companies, sorry. More recently, we've gone out in the field and we've identified outcropping spodumene and some of the old gold workings sticking out of the ground, up to 30% spodumene minerals in a pegmatite. We're pretty happy to get close to 2% lithium oxide in those assays because these were fairly weathered. And as a lot of you will know, that lithium associated with spodumene is very mobile in the weathering profile. So we expect to get much higher grades than this in the fresher material. We've just completed soils over this pegmatite and a couple of others. It's really hard to tell how extensive the mineralisation or the pegmatites are. There's a lot of soil cover here and very little outcrop. So again, we expect those results back in a couple of weeks. Put in our work permits for drilling for not only the lithium and the nickel, and we hope to be drilling at Miriam on a number of targets in the first half of this year. Our biggest exploration project is Lynn Lake, away from the mining centre. Lynn Lake is an old mining centre, prolific producer of nickel, mined for 24 years at about 1 million tonnes per annum. What's left there is some fairly good infrastructure. The jewel in the crown of that infrastructure are the hydro schemes. There's 2 hydro power stations, and this is what everyone's after. Everyone's after green nickel projects, a class 1 nickel sulfide, and operated by renewable energy such as hydro power stations. So we're sitting pretty with that, and really this as a new mining project ticks a lot of boxes in North America. Standing back, looking at the projects, it's a very mineral-rich area, not only nickel sulfides, but also VMSs, zinc copper VMSs, some gold VMSs, as well as gold deposits in the area. We pretty much only focused on the nickel at this stage, but some of our regional exploration are showing some of these VMSs quite well. The main the interpreted geology plan, you can see there's the intrusive mafics, ultramafics. They carry the nickel, the main mining centre. The A plug and the L plug up to the north there. Our main exploration project is the Fraser Lake complex, and all these plugs carry nickel sulfide that's been defined in drilling going back to the early to mid 40s. So, but we've been focused on Fraser Lake. It's twice the size of the mining centre A plug. It's got all the chemical and physical characteristics. In fact, we've been drilling in this mining centre at the moment, and the mineralisation we see in our exploration drilling at Fraser Lake is more extensive than we see beside the deposits in the mining centre. So we've had a strong belief for some time that we're onto something here. We've had a lot of difficulty in trying to, I guess, shortcut pattern drilling and geophysically try to identify these targets. I mean, this is big. That's about 4 or 5 k's long. You see there, so it's quite a big target. We've just recently commissioned a 3D IP survey over much of the Fraser Lake complex, very expensive survey, but we think this will be the final, I guess, key to the puzzle to be able to tell where to drill. We see a lot of these big sulfide clouds, nickel sulfide clouds in there, but we also see a lot of VMSs, sedimentary sulfides and everything else. So very difficult place to explore. But we've got high hopes to be, hopefully, if depends on where the targets are, but to be drilling back in here before mid-year this year. If not, if the targets are in wet areas, we might have to wait till next winter, but I'm sure we'll get some targets in that are accessible. And you can see some of those intervals there wouldn't be out of place in the main mining centre. But looking at the main mining centre, 16 million tonnes in 6 deposits of more than 20 deposits defined in the mining centre, and our resource areas there in the long section there, the purple things. As a mining concept, you'd probably start with an open pit on the L deposit, for a couple of years before going underground on the N and the O deposits there. This is pretty clunky, but I'll take you through a bit of a fly through to give you some concept of the extent of the previous work and the size. A couple of Landsat images stitched together. There's a Lynn Lake Township around the mining centre. We've inherited zero environmental liability on this operation. The Manitoba government inherits all that. And you can see a military scale airstrip there. What's that, 2 minutes, Chrissy? Okay, there's the interpreted geology. The purple things are the intrusives going straight into the drilling and the workings. There's more than 10,000 drill holes in this area. Our resources are 80% measured or indicated, so we don't have to do a lot of resource definition drilling going forward. That's been done. If anything, we've got to do resource extension drilling. We need to do metallurgical drilling. We need to do geotech drilling. That really information needed for a new mine. Zooming in there, that's the N, O and P deposits. You can see the drilling in grey, the old workings and drives are there in gold or yellow, however you want to call it. And they were mining these things when it shut down in 1976. So a lot of the development's been done. The colours you see there aren't the ore block model. That's actually quite a smart way of looking at the mineralisation. It's the modelling of composited drill hole assays, and the colours there reflect inflections, statistical inflections in the assay data. So the green is plus 0.3% nickel, and the red is plus 0.6% nickel. And when I talk about these grades, they're 100% sulfide nickel. You don't have the 0.2 or the 0.3% of total nickel that people quote. That's not recoverable. We've got none of that at Lynn Lake. This is all recoverable nickel. And the average grade here of, say, the plus 0.6 zone is probably running between 0.8 and 1% nickel, depending on where you are. And the average grade of the green stuff is probably running about 0.5, 0.6. Historically, they mined about 0.5 nickel or 0.5 copper. That would be close to the red stuff here. We don't think that's how this needs to be mined. We think that we can make this a large-scale, low-cost mining operation and really change how this project was done in the past, and that's what we're working on in the background. So, been around for a while. We've been working at Lynn Lake since 2010. We've managed to acquire the whole mining centre now. Good commodities, nickel's solid. Iggy will support that. Nickel, copper, cobalt in Lynn Lake, and some really exciting exploration projects that have walk-up drill targets about to be defined. So thank you very much.
Well done, Brett Smith. Up next, an unashamedly Northern Territory focused explorer, Prodigy Gold. They've been around since 2016. They are growing resources, working with JV partners. They're in the heart of an area that has given us one of the nation's best ever gold mines. So what else is out there? Will they find it? Can you welcome, please, this fella? He's Managing Director of Prodigy Gold, Mark Edwards.
Righto, thank you very much. Prodigy Gold, we're NT-focused explorer with one tenement in WA, but we've also just moved our office middle of last year. So we're also one of the only Australian listed entities that have their corporate office in the Northern Territory based in Darwin. Just normal disclaimer. So a bit of a snapshot. We've got about $8 million in the bank. We just finished a capital raise in October last year. We've got no debt. We've also got a very supportive shareholder base, major shareholder with APAC Resources with just under 50% of the shareholding. They were very active in the capital raise, so they're very, very supportive of what we're doing. We've also got quite an experienced board, and I've been in the role since about May last year, having a background of working in the Northern Territory. So a bit more about us. We are located in a very well-endowed region of the Northern Territory, which hosts the Tanami Newmont operation, which has a total endowment of about 14 million ounces. We're also working in an area where some of the other explorers are, like IGO, Northern Star, and as we've heard, Black Cat Resources just over the other side of the border with their Coyote operation. We're working with a lot of Australia's majors, which is really exciting. We've also got a pretty solid resource base of around 1 million ounces. And having just announced a new resource today in that region as well, in the northern Tanami North area, which is just north of the Ground Rush deposit, which we can talk about a bit more. And we've also got some pretty active JVs with some of the majors. So speaking of those JVs, we've got 2 JVs around the Cali deposit with Newmont. They're very, very active and very supportive. They've done a mountain of work, including some of their deep sensing geochemistry sampling. They've done some geophysics as well as some drilling on their projects over the last couple of years. A little bit of a challenging environment in 21 with obviously with COVID, but since then and since I've been on board, they've done a lot of work. So they're very, very supportive in that. And we've enjoyed working with those guys. We've got a small JV with Australasian Metals at their Barrow Creek. We've just got a free carry 10% holding with those guys. And obviously IGO, they've been very, very supportive with the work that we've done over the last couple of years with the JVs. Just finished restructuring them last year. So now there's 3, 2 focused on gold and 1 on base metals. And obviously, we just released earlier this month a hole we drilled at the end of last year, which was pretty successful. The 2 meters of 1 gram, 1% copper and 1% zinc. So more about that. There was 3 zones, good results. What we've seen with it, it's showing the continuity of the higher grade mineralisation at depth, which is following on from a really successful hole that IGO drilled back in 2021. It's an exciting project for us. There's other targets on there. Obviously, our focus is on gold, which we're going to work more on in 2023 and follow up drilling up some of IGO's previously drilled targets, which also have base metals, but also have high gold. As I previously mentioned, today we just released a brand new mineral resource. It's the first one that Prodigy's released since 2018. It's relatively small, but it's a good starting point. It is located along strike in the Tanami North project, which hosts the Ground Rush deposit, which is part of the Tanami Gold Northern Star joint venture to the south. But what we've seen, it's going to be a bit of a focus for us in 2023 with the idea we're going to get out there and drill that. The long section that you can see at the bottom, it really does highlight that there's areas where there's just been a lack of drilling. There is RAB and air core, but the RC and diamond drilling that forms the resource, showing gaps that we can infill. So that's the plan for 2023. We'll do it probably over the first half and second half, with the idea of trying to grow the resource and add confidence because it is an inferred resource only. So Tregony forms part of the Tanami North, Ground Rush to the south, Crusade to the north, both part of the Central Tanami joint venture. Ground Rush, that's a great deposit. It's the type of deposit we're looking for. Endowment of about 1.7 million ounces. So it's an exciting project for those guys. They're obviously working through the process of understanding what is the potential for their area as part of the Central Tanami joint venture. So it makes sense for us to shift our focus and look for what we can find to the north within trucking distance of their operation. We have the Hyperion resource. It's about 300,000 ounces, and that's to the south. We're looking to do some drilling there. The first early drilling we'll look to do there is probably to understand the metallurgical potential and see how that could feed into a CIL processing plant like is most likely envisaged for the area. The other one is to the north, Bauk North. We've got some co-funded drilling. The NT government's been very, very supportive in their resourcing the territory initiative. They're paying for half the drilling and half the assaying costs of the program up there. So they've been really supportive with us and many companies in the Northern Territory. It's actually a 50 square kilometre area where there's been no previous drilling along a known mineralised trend. The issue why it hasn't been drilled, there is some unmineralised cap over the top of it, which has meant it's not a very exciting target or not an easy target to drill, but with co-funding, it allows us to get in and try and find the right stratigraphy underneath. So that's part of our key areas of focus for 2023, and then centering on that Supplejack shear zone. Another one which we've already talked about, we've met our sole funding arrangements with as part of the restructured JV with IGO. They've been really supportive with all the work that we're doing. We've started talking with them about focusing on the gold-rich targets. 3 of which Goldbug, Grapple and Bumblebee. Some really good results that we've seen there in historic drilling dating back to sort of 2015 and 2016. 16 metres at around 1.2. So big, broad, lower grade intercepts. And Grapple, to me, that's a walk up. That's 11 metres at nearly 8 grams gold. That's one of the high grade hits that we've seen in that region. So we're looking to get the rig out there in the second half of this year, and look to see what we can do to drill those targets. So we're at the booth. There's a few project areas that we hold. We've got 27,000 square kilometres in the Northern Territory, which is a very large holding. So we're obviously being very active in the JV space. We've also got some projects that are probably now looking as being non-core. So we're more than happy to talk to people about any other opportunities that we have. So come and see us at the booth. We've got examples of the new Tregony mineral resource mineralisation in core sitting on our desk if anyone wants to look at some geology and see some visible gold. But yeah, we're more than happy to talk about any other opportunities or anyone else who's looking to work in the Northern Territory. We've obviously got a lot of experience working in that area. So just finally, mineral resources broken down amongst all the 4 deposits that we've got to see 17 million tonnes at nearly 2 grams for just over a million ounces. So we've got the resource base that we're looking to grow in the near to short term. That's it. Thank you.
Mike, I've got 1 minute up my sleeve before Arvind and Misra joins me. You're also on the board at Swimming Northern Territory, aren't you? You are, yeah. When I was news reading many, many years ago, the best story that I ever read was at the end of the news one night, and it involved a swimming coach in the Northern Territory who had taped the mouth of a little baby freshwater crocodile, and he set all the kids off, and then he put the crocodile in afterwards to teach him to swim faster. Was it former? Do they still do it? No. Have you seen it done? No. Did you ever do it? No. Did you ever do it really? No. Okay. Interesting. You're just encouraging people to come up and live in the Northern Territory. You want a point of difference. That could be interesting. Arvind, do you want to come and join us, sir? Zinc, copper, gold, silver, nickel, lead, they're all key minerals, as we know, as the world moves towards electrification, and they are key resources in our next presenter, Belararox's Australian and Argentinian projects which are primed for responsible expansion in really mining-friendly districts. Would you please welcome Belararox MD, Arvind Misra, to discuss what their team is doing to find and secure said resources. Please make him welcome.
Thank you, Chrissy, and RIU team for giving me opportunity to present my company. Belararox is a relatively newly listed company. We listed about 12 months ago, January 2022, mainly focused around the projects in New South Wales in Lachlan Fold Belt near Dubbo, and a project near Coolgardie. And since then, we also have been actively looking at M&A opportunity, and recently have signed a non-binding term sheet to acquire a project in Argentina, which has got some very good potential, which I'll talk in my presentation. Just on a disclaimer, I'll skip that. So just highlights led by a proven board management team and advisory team. As you can see, also the location of the project on the right-hand side map. It's from Sydney, about 3 hours drive to a town called Mudgee, and we're about 30 kilometres from Mudgee in the project in New South Wales, and Coolgardie, about 30 kilometres west of Coolgardie. We are in Bullabulling area. We're targeting zinc, copper, gold, silver, lithium, nickel, and lead resources. All the tenements are 100% owned. Bellara project in the last 12 months since listing, we have been able to deliver the maiden resource at about 5 million tonnes, 3.4% zinc equivalent grade. And now we are looking at expanding the resource by drilling along the south, so that south of the project, which I'll show you some pictures of. In addition to that project we're drilling, we had 200 square kilometers. Now we're close to being granted another 400 square kilometers into 2 new leases east of the current lease. In terms of our Bullabulling project, which we initially were only focusing for gold, there's a lot of gold work done, but a lot of activities around our project is around lithium, LCT, pegmatites, and we are now pursuing that strategy also, and I'll talk about that. And in Argentina, this project TMT was a good opportunity for us to ignore, and there's a lot of good reasons why we're doing the deal, and I'll cover that. We are held very tightly, only 54 million shares on issue, and we are fully funded for the next stages of work that we plan to do to expand our resource and do some more exploration work. Team very quickly led by Neil Warburton, my chairman, well known, and you can see 7 pictures of there. There's a couple of distinctions. There's only one Indian, rest of all chiefs. But three of those people are Michelle Stokes and Jason Ward and Dr. Greg Partington. They are 3 geologists, each of them 40 years of experience. I've got a lot of geology firepower in my team. Michelle Stokes and myself, we founded the company along with Neil. So we are the largest shareholder, representing about 25% of the share register. And you can see we were one of the more successful IPO, we'll call ourselves, because our share price range, you can see from 24 cents to about $1.50 when we were at the peak. We're down about 29, 30 cents in the range because of a lot of factors, global interest, inflation, war in Ukraine, and a few other things. But hopefully we build that back again this year. This project, as you can see in the right-hand picture from Sydney, you can see Bellarara mine, and just closer of that on the left-hand side with the black polygon, this is where the Bellarara mine and Native B mine, they were historically mined pre-World War, very high-grade copper, 3 to 5% copper, 2 to 4.5 grams gold. And it was owned by previous owner, Bauk. When we got the project, they drilled and they had a 2004 resource on it. So when we did the IPO, we had a very clear focus strategy that we will convert that resource to 2012. So we done 5,700 meters of drilling, RC and DD diamond drilling, and then we have done the resource. And further from Native B South, we've done a lot of geophysics like gravity survey, IP, and magnetics works to define the new targets. And I'll cover that in the next slide. This is the long section of the Bellarara resource model. It's 700 meters along a strike, about 350 to 400 meters depth. That's what we have tested so far. As you can see, the high-grade shoot greater than 4 and 6 gram zinc equivalent seems to indicate it sort of opens like northern end and probably open at depth. And we will be testing that in the next round of drilling when we do. Some of the interesting intersections you can see 7 meters of 2.2% zinc, 2.4% copper, including 3 meters of about 4.7% zinc and 5.8% copper. They're spectacular intersections that we have in our resource. More interestingly also is this Native B. You can see this color in the yellowish color, and that's the boundary of the current resource model in the Native B. South of that, where the arrow is pointing, there is an old shaft, Native B shaft, which was obviously mined for those high grades I mentioned before, but there's no drilling done between the boundary, southern boundary of the resource model to the shaft. And obviously, that's what the next target is, that we'll be drilling and testing that out. And also the NBRC002, that hole that's shown there is still open at depth. So some of the holes will be done, we'll be drilling deeper holes and also extending further south. This is the 3D inversion model, magnetic inversion model that shows you that black outline with the current resource boundaries. And as you can see, particularly from the south of Native B, it's about 1.5 kilometers of a strike. That looks pretty similar in geology and geophysics to what Bellarara that we have drilled so far. So we got interesting drilling coming up, 3,600 meters of drill program we have announced. We'll start drilling from next week. It'll be all diamond drilling. Some of the intersections, interesting ones, you can see some of the thicker intersections at the bottom on the first slide on the left hand, 16.5 meters of about 5 to 6% zinc equivalent. There were old holes and they were never drilled for testing the continuity all the way to surface. The hole that we have drilled, BRC016, confirms it continues all the way, so this was a bonus for us. On the right-hand side is a sample of NBRC002, the Native B hole. It shows the depth continuity. So there's plenty of potential for us to keep drilling more and further south and down dip for Native B. And beyond that, beyond looking at Native B, which is Bellarara, which is testing a 700 meter strike length, including Native B, 1 kilometer strike length, and then 1.5 kilometers of drilling that I plan to do in the next few months. There's 20 kilometers of corridor, mineralized corridor that looks pretty similar. there has been no modern geophysics work done. So apart from the drilling that 1.5 kilometers south of NITB, we'll be flying the drones and looking at magnetics and trying to identify next drilling targets along the way. On the eastern side, the 2 leases, they are waiting for a minister to sign. One of them has been signed, and I'll be probably announcing in a week or so the grant of those 400 square kilometers of east. So that will give me that 20-meter corridor. And also on the eastern side, it's pretty well known for hosting orogenic gold also. So we'll be looking for those targets. In terms of bulling now, the second project, the red dots that shows where our tenements is. There's so much of lithium work going on around us, and there's a lot of old gold mines being converted to lithium mines. With that turned our focus, particularly after seeing the results of the WC8, that they have found some pegmatite, and we did some work. Next slide shows the pegmatite presence on in our ground, and the corridor in the blue, the middle one picture that shows that's where the granite contact is. And we'll be doing some more work planning and doing some more testing there. And the right-hand side, you can see the outcropping of the quartz in the pegmatite. I'll just very quickly cover TMT project. This is the Toro project in the San Juan province in Argentina. So San Juan is ranked as #1 province in terms of the friendliness mining by Fraser Institute of Australia. There's a lot of big activities going on. If you can see from the south of that red square, Escolama, Veladora is a mine operated by Bauk. And the northern side, we have Filo de Sol, which is developing a $4 billion copper mine there. So it's in the right district, 10 square kilometer area. They are the neighbors, Filo de Sol. They have got 1.3 kilometer intersection of 1.33 copper equivalent. And as I said, 4 minutes, there's a lot of good neighborhood, good infrastructure up in the Andes. And site is accessible. My exposure measure there was for 10 days, just come back. We're doing the DD on that. Very excited about the potential of this project. There are the targets. 3 out of the 4 TMT targets are regarded as deposits by Argentinian national deposits. SIGMA, which is Argentinian National Geological Services, they have defined them as a deposits targets. So, and the southernmost one, Toro, has been drilled. We have seen results of 18 holes, which we're still doing QA/QC. We're not able to announce that yet until we do the completion of DD and the binding agreement. But the holes that I'm seeing gives me a lot of hope of finding something economic there. So in terms of the news flow, it's going to be, I was counting about 40 announcements in the next 10, 12 months. There's a lot of drilling information of Bellara, lithium pegmatite out of bulling, and then the work that we'll be doing in Argentina will be quite exciting and a lot of news flow. So in summary, we are fully funded for phase 2 drilling, new drilling targets identified to extend our resource in Bellara. Bulling, we're doing some work to confirm lithium pegmatite, and gold story is still there, but we'll do the pegmatite first. And we are looking to close our deal on the Argentina project, hopefully by end of this month. Just for contact information, and this shows the slide, the couple of holes that Chris Blazer, my exploration manager, when he was on site. This is the Argentinian couple of old holes drilled, and some nice picture there. Thank you.
Thank you, Arvind. Now, this time last year, the next company up on stage did not even exist. BVR, Bellavista Resources. It's all about base and battery metals. You may have heard of a fellow called Steve Parsons, Bellevue Gold, Midas, Cygnus. Well, BVR falls under the same umbrella, doesn't it? There you go. This fellow here, though, is not Steve. This is Mick Wilson. Mick is the ED of BVR. Now, I asked him beforehand, what are you up to? You know, I asked everyone what the headline is for the presentation they're giving to us. I said, what are you up to, Mick? And he said, he was so, look at him, he was so happy. He said, we are hunting for elephants in elephant country. So I think it might be a good prospect. Well, it could be the best prospect of the day to wrap us up. Would you please make him very welcome? If he's right, we're onto something.
Thank you, Chrissy. The usual cautionary statement. Corporate summary. Now, look, there's not too many people in the room, so what I might actually do is get everyone to stand up for me. Come on, everyone stand up. Now, have a stretch, take a breath. Now, if you own shares in Bellavista or you actually work for Bellavista, stay standing up. Everyone else can sit down.
There's my team over there. We've got the rest of the guys that work at level 2, 8 Richardson down the back. But essentially today's about trying to get a few of you guys along and for the ride of what we're doing. So corporate summary there, we've got very few shares on issue. So there's 66 million shares. We raised $6.5 million back in May, 25th of May. The book was open for half an hour. We closed it on the day. So as you can see, the structure's right. You can see the share range over that period. So we've been on the books for eight months. We've jumped around quite a bit on just our news flow, and we've still got plenty of money in the bank. You can see the shareholder summary on the side there. Steve Parson, 10%. Mark Clark from another gold bug, I guess, also there for 10, and their money man, Mike Daler and Kim Massey. So between them, 32% of the stock. The top 20 is made up of who's who in our game, and they cover about 60% of the stock. So as you can see from the little bar graph there, there's only about 29% of our stock in retail hands. So when we go for a run, we go for a run. Management team, again, blessed to be part of this group. I think what it brings is a quality board. So we have some great people at the top of the tree, but we also get access to the A team in the corporate office. So for us, it's the ability to do what we do in the field. I'm an explorer, I'm a geologist, but it's about having those guys in the background that can actually deliver value at the corporate level. I think the key for Bellavista is this project selection philosophy. I mean, yesterday, Dave Southern talked about 5 Ps. I think we can reduce ours to 3. The people, the projects, and potential. They're really the keys for what Bellavista is all about. We've chosen an area. It genuinely is elephant country, Chrissy. I mean, we're talking one part of the country that probably hasn't seen much work at all, but in the last 30 years, very little. So what that provides us is this amazing opportunity to get up there and actually see what's there. You know, just so you get some context, for us to get to our site at the moment, we head up through Meekatharra. That's our last bit of blacktop. We go probably about 60 k's to the north of that and jump onto the Ashburton Downs Road. It's a 6-hour drive to camp. Now, we're actually not that far from Newman, but you've got to cross multiple large rivers to get to where we are. So that's how big WA is and why these particular areas have been sort of not particularly explored in the past. However, in the last 18 months to 2 years, Dreadnought success, Abra mine that's been sitting on the vine there for nearly 30 years is suddenly in production. So this area is the last bastion. This is the place where the big discoveries will be made, and we're lucky enough to have a good, decent block of land in that part of the world. So here we have our current tenure. We have 140 kilometres of strike. And we pretty much cover the top edge of the Edmund Basin. We've also recently bookended Abra mine. So Abra sits on one side of a large granite intrusion. I'm sure there's a laser on this thing. Granite intrusion sitting in here. We've just picked up a huge tenement to the east of that, which is the bookend. Same geology, same rocks, and we believe there's probably something similar over there. So let's just drill down to our important project and what we've been up to date. Now, when I say elephants, it's important for you to get this into context. We don't drill our holes 50 metres apart. We don't drill them 100 metres apart. These holes are over 1 kilometre apart. So the first 3 holes we drilled into Brumby, the system. The first one, it's effectively the same as drilling into the middle of Perth CBD. The second one, about Floriat. The third one, City Beach. So that's the sort of drilling distances we're doing, still hitting the system, and it's the same consistent, continuous mineralisation right across that zone. So at the moment, we're looking at something that's about 7 kilometres in strike, about 4 kilometres in width, and it's between 10 and 30 metres wide. Now, the grade profile, it's interesting, but we've now got access to all this amazing new technology. So the key for us being a new company is actually going out there and seeking these things early so that we've got the chance to actually use technology to sort through those problems that people in the past didn't have. Now, this was drilled by CRA in 1997. We're not any smarter than the guys that drilled it back then, but we've got access to 25 years later, some fantastic technology. This particular unit, the Metallizer system, this will be the future for base metals exploration. I can actually get data on 2 centimetre intervals on my core. So what that means is the devil in the detail. I mean, I'm a big believer in the chaos theory. So what you see at the small scale, you see at the big scale. And this particular technique, it is actually once calibrated, very, very closely related to our assay results. So we're very comfortable with the results we get from it. But what it's showing in this picture here is the fact that the overall grade, we're about 2% zinc equivalent over 24 metres. But if you actually drill down on those red lines, these are 10, back one. These are 10 centimetre intervals. And so the overall grade of that zone was 1.4% zinc, plus a bit of silver, plus a bit of copper. But you can see these spikes right up to 5.8% zinc. So one of the queries for this part of the world was always, oh, well, it's too low grade. But we've just shown that there's actually high grade zinc mineralisation in the system. We can't assay for silver, but we know it's probably fairly correlated to that as well. So suddenly here we have a 7 kilometre long, 4 kilometre wide system that's now got high grades present. So I'm not saying it's there yet. We've got a very big system, so we need to look for the smoke, beyond the smoke for the fire. But ultimately, this system is so big, it'll have a B after it when it comes to tonnage. Whether that grade profile we can get closer to 5% zinc equivalent, fantastic. But this is the next sort of big base metal discovery, we believe. The other thing we're tapping into is we've trialled a passive seismic survey. Now, the issue with these sorts of things, we know we've got a football field here, but where are the goalposts? So we need to find a technique that we can use that gets us down to that level quickly, because to go out and drill kilometre after kilometre trying to find the edge of this system, that's going to be expensive. But if we can find a technique that hones us in. So we did a trial using a system that's effectively the original style. Took us 8 weeks to do the work. We still haven't got the final results back. We're looking at using the fleet system, which is real time. It'll deliver information as we do the survey. So that allows us to really expand on our project. The other thing that's turned up by just having boots on the ground is there's a whole lot of copper in this system that's not part of the main SEDEX. It's higher, it's near surface, there's lots of oxides floating around. We don't even know what this means yet, but the beauty of this part of the world is these big elephants up there and we reckon we're onto them. So last 8 months, we've drilled 6,000 metres. A lot of that was diamonds. We've confirmed continuity across the system. We've found new copper targets. We've trialled the passive survey. We're about to jump into phase 2. Well, we've done phase 2 RC. We're about to jump into phase 2 diamond. There's the snapshot. Here's our little lizard from our camp. And they're the key reasons why you should be investing. Now, one thing I please ask is don't go out tomorrow and go hard, because last time I did this talk, we got a speeding fine 2 days later. However, we've got a good story. Keep an eye on us, please.
Brilliant. I'm not supposed to speak. That was a great talk. Thank you, sir. What's the lizard's name? Do you have a lizard, his name? No, you have to have a meeting about that one later. He was very cute, very, very cute. My husband's up at BHP at the moment. He's up at Port Hedland. He keeps sending me pictures of frogs outside the camp where he's at the moment. All right. Are you ready for this, Jarra Smith? Are you primed? Don't you leave. Stay there. I threaten that you're going to miss something very, very good. You will. All right. Jarra, this is our small and intimate gathering to hear what it is that you have to say.
I won't get everyone to stand up, so that's fine.
You won't? Oh, I actually like that. I thought that worked really well. Right. Jarra's title, he is Head of Commodity Sales Australia for S&P Global Market Intelligence. He is going to provide an overview of the impact of this energy transition on the global exploration sector. And he's also going to review key exploration trends in the marketplace for us. Can you please make him very, very welcome, everyone?
Thanks, Chrissy, and thanks very much to Vertical Events for putting on a great conference once again. Over the past 10 years of attending this event, I've always found it a really great indicator of where the sector is at and what's in moving forward. Today's presentation will provide a snapshot of global exploration trends with a focus on the impact of energy transition on the market, and will hopefully also provide the audience with some key indicators of the year ahead. Key themes covered today include the impact of growth in demand for energy transition minerals on the sector and some of the challenges being faced. We'll look at global exploration trends and the interplay between major discoveries and exploration activity in 2022. Following a significant slowdown in the exploration sector from 2012 to 2016, strong, consistent growth has occurred from 2020, with exploration budgets in 2022 now returning to levels closer to pre-downturn. As seen in this chart, much of this growth is attributed to exploration for minerals that will be used in the global clean energy transition. Mining for future-facing energy transition minerals is a key component of a global transition toward low-carbon energy technologies. The world needs to act quickly to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, to limit global warming, and avoid potentially catastrophic impacts to society and nature alike. The low-carbon transition will require a massive expansion of renewable generation, high-voltage power lines, and electric vehicles. To meet this demand, the mining sector has collectively ramped up exploration budgets for many of the minerals essential for technologies such as wind and solar power, utility-scale battery storage, and electric vehicles. Looking at this chart, on a commodity basis, since 2016, annual zinc exploration budgets have increased 23%. Copper is up 77%, nickel 157%, lithium 541%, and cobalt 745%. Even with this significant increase in exploration spend flowing through to additional reserves and ultimately materials being produced, soaring demand for commodities such as lithium as a major battery component is predicted to keep the market in deficit in the near and medium terms. The green energy transition will also be a driver of copper demand growth globally and particularly in Europe due to energy supply concerns generated by the Russia-Ukraine conflict. The International Energy Agency anticipates renewable power capacity additions in Europe through to 2027 to be double the previous 5-year period. The use of copper within solar, wind power generation and electric vehicle sales are anticipated to lift European refined copper demand, with the market balance tightening and entering deficit by 2025. An important challenge facing the mining sector, with a significant demand growth occurring for energy transition minerals, is related to managing potential trade-offs arising between efforts to conserve nature and the goal to reduce emissions. S&P Global's team, the Sustainable One team, find that approximately a third of operating mines and exploration development projects are found in locations which can be classified as important biodiversity areas. On a corporate front, we're seeing the requirement to provide transparency, reporting of ESG performance as an area of growth and increasingly important to the global investment community. Growth in the number of companies completing S&P's Corporate Sustainability Assessment report demonstrates this adjustment in mindset. Another important challenge to achieve green energy transition objectives is related to development capex. To meet the demand for future-facing minerals, it is widely accepted that a significant increase in capex globally will be required, with potentially an additional 100 billion per annum of capex needed to be invested, above the longer-term run rate of 80 billion per annum. Our forecasts are predicting a large gap, which will ultimately impact energy transition objectives. Looking at individual commodity CapEx numbers, copper really stands out as presenting a major challenge, as it is potentially the most important of the energy transition metals, and we are forecasting development CapEx to continue declining. Looking at Australia, it remains a prime destination for exploration in 2022, with a 22% budget increase from 2021 up to $2.32 billion, which is well above the 16% global average increase. Australia's share of the global budget has risen to 18%, its largest in the past 2 decades. Gold consistently tops as the most targeted commodity globally for the past 10 years, with an increase of 12% year over year in 2022. In 2022, lithium exploration budgets were at an all-time high of $467 million, almost double the recent peak of $279 million in 2019. Cobalt budgets remained flat year over year at $71 million. On a regional basis, exploration in Latin America increased significantly in 2022, which was driven by nickel in Brazil and lithium in Argentina. Australia continues to contribute the largest proportion of exploration spend, with budgets for nickel, lithium and cobalt exploration increasing 68%, the highest total since 1997. Most of this increase is attributed to lithium, which has almost quadrupled its allocations year on year to $92 million from $25 million. In 2022, global nickel budgets increased 45% to a decade high of $612 million, with copper exploration budgets reaching a 9-year high, increasing 21% year over year to $2.8 billion. This slide provides a bit of an overview of Australia, with gold obviously dominating in terms of the commodity being explored for. And then when comparing to other states, Western Australia certainly leads the way. Sharp spikes in gold exploration budgets since 2010 have coincided with several significant gold discoveries to assist in replenishing depleted reserves. Australia ranks 3rd in terms of new discoveries in the past decade. When we look at copper, there is still an abundance of undeveloped discoveries, but most of those are smaller or low grade, with relatively few high quality assets available for development. While there are enough quality existing assets being developed to meet increasing demand over the near term, additional assets will be required for the medium term as existing operations ramp down or close. This means companies of all sizes need to invest more in grassroots exploration to discover the deposits that will be required to supply demand 20 years from now. If we take a step back, overall the S&P Exploration Index peaked in the first quarter of 2022. As expected, the Pipeline Activity Index has a close correlation with trends in aggregate market capitalisation. Looking at global project drilling activity by commodity, gold continues to dominate. However, we are seeing strong growth within copper and nickel as more projects are being drilled the last 2 years. This map provides a nice graphical representation of where the top drilling results are occurring by commodity, with an expected high activity occurring in Australia, Canada, and South America. Looking at the largest deals in 2022 as a snapshot ranked by deal value, of the top 10 deals, 8 can be regarded as involving green energy transition minerals, as we see many of the larger companies looking to increase their exposure to these future-facing minerals. So in summary, the mineral exploration sector remains extremely strong, with growth in exploration spend, which is being supercharged by the demand for energy transition minerals. Challenges facing the sector include the trade-off between meeting this increased demand for energy transition minerals and biodiversity concerns, while the gap in significant discoveries for many commodities is likely to impact future supply. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very strong end to our conference for day 2. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying in the room. Can I just say a very brief thank you very much for welcoming as part of the RIU team. It's been a real honour. Jerry's going to be back with you tomorrow, last day of his farewell tour. He'll be telling you all about his caravan and his plans. No doubt, good on him with all the little investment earnings he's made over the years. And I really think, you know, you all came to RIU looking for investments, looking for investments that are going to make an early retirement and a better life here, something that's possible, something really, really possible. I know I'm going to enjoy my part of this journey here. And as Adam said earlier, this is the best conference in the country to connect investors with companies, but I also think it's a great way of connecting us as investors with other investors. Sounds like I've already been to the drinks outside already. That's what I'm trying to invite you all out to. And say thank you to Gallagher on your way out. Say hello to Bushy. Make sure he knows who you are. Make sure you've got your name on that board out there so you're in the running for the $500 voucher. Enjoy tomorrow, and I'll see you back here again next year. Thanks, everyone.